The final season of Game of Thrones is about to kick off, and in a show this dense, it's difficult to keep a track of everyone, where they are and what they're doing. So just before season 8 starts, here's a brief rundown on the main characters' whereabouts and what they're up to. Sansa Stark, Arya Stark and Bran Stark are all in Winterfell. They've just sussed out Littlefinger's dastardly plans and subsequently executed him. They've been joined by Samwell Tarly and Gilly with their baby Sam. Everyone is waiting in Winterfell for their allies to get back from the King's Landing meeting, and in Winterfell they'll form a defence against the army of the dead. So the Allied forces on their way back to Winterfell from the meeting at King's Landing are primarily stationed at White Harbour, where they're going to meet. They're led by Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, and of course their armies of the Dothraki Horde, the dragons are there as well, and the Unsullied. But also there we have Tyrion Lannister, Jorah Mormont, Sandor Clegane aka the Hound, Brienne of Tarth and Podrick Payne, Davos Seaworth, Varys, Grey Worm and Missandei, and of course Gendry Baratheon. If you consider those guys going north to goodies, then the baddies are still in King's Landing. That's Cersei Lannister with her minions Qyburn and the Mountain, aka Gregor Clegane. They said they were going to join the forces of the good guys and fight the army of the dead, but they're actually planning some sort of dastardly backstab in King's Landing. A couple of other people that are still in King's Landing as well, presumably Bronn, who we last saw there, and his allegiance is solely with gold, so he might head up north to fight the good fight. He might stay in King's Landing with gold, we don't know. Everyone loves Bronn. Also Ilaria Sand, she was last seen in a dungeon in King's Landing. She may be dead, she may still be in that dungeon. Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer, he's just left King's Landing by himself en route to Winterfell, where he wants to join the forces of the goodies to fight the dead. Theon Greyjoy has just left the island of Dragonstone with some forces of the Ironborn to try and rescue his sister Yara Greyjoy, who is a captive of Euron Greyjoy, their uncle. He may have left her in a dungeon in King's Landing, but he's probably got her with him, and he's taking his fleet he said he was going to the Iron Islands to hide from the dead, but Cersei said his plan was actually go over to Braavos to ferry the Golden Company back to Westeros, at which are going to then fight the goodies. Moving on to Eastwatch, that's the castle on the wall run by the men of the Night's Watch, where we saw the very end of season 7. So the very last scene we've seen of Game of Thrones was at Eastwatch, and what happened there was the Night King flying an ice dragon blew a massive hole through the wall and led his forces of the dead through it into the lands of Westeros for the first time in history. So that's where we saw that particular very scary army. The living forces we saw there included Tormund Giantsbane and Beric Dondarrion. They looked like they were about to die on Eastwatch when the Night King was smashing it. Trailers have revealed that they're actually still alive in season 8, so they're presumably on their way south to Winterfell. Okay, so that's the main characters, but we've got a few more to get through just before the end here. So, not at Eastwatch, but at Castle Black, we saw Ed, full name Edison Tollett. He was not at Eastwatch, as I just said. He's over at Castle Black, where he's Lord Commander. Melisandre, the Red Woman, she took off to Volantis from Dragonstone a few episodes ago. She's presumably in Volantis. Mera Reed we last saw in Winterfell, where she was leaving to go back to her home of Greywater Watch. Jaqen H'ghar was last seen in Braavos, while Dario Naharis was last seen in Meereen guarding it for Daenerys. Nymeria, the last living Stark direwolf, was last seen roaming the wilderness near the Riverlands, where she presumably still is. And old mate Hot Pie, still at the inn at the crossroads, still baking delicious goods.
Secret is browning the butter before making the dough.